In this lecture, we're going to talk about cognitive plasticity. In the previous lecture, when we talked about social plasticity, we talked about exercises that can help you in your experiences, in your social interaction, and with your overall environment. But now we need to deal with the brain structure, we need to deal with thoughts that you have, ideas, and these stream of thoughts sometimes that you have and you're not very aware of, when in reality they have a huge impact on the neuroplasticity process. We want to ensure that you push your brain's boundaries. Neuroplasticity is all about expanding your brain. If you don't expand the boundaries of your brain, you can't ensure neuroplasticity. You're going to be walking in the wrong direction. So, where does cognitive improvement start? First things first, openness to experience. We did talk about this concept in social plasticity, but in social plasticity, we were talking about openness to experience when it comes to society more than on the cognitive level. You need to look into ideas you didn't look into before. You need to, let's say, if every single time you read personal development books, you might want to buy 3 or 4 novels and read them. If you always listen to classical music, you might want to listen to a little bit of pop. This openness to experience will, of course, expand your mind and expand your neural structures. Second thing is creativity, thinking, and imagination. And nowadays, again going back to technology, our creativity is decreasing, our thinking is decreasing, and our imagination is decreasing. When you're using your phone, you don't have to think. When you're watching Netflix, you don't have to think. And even when you think, you're looking at your phone and you're thinking, you're eating, you don't think about your food, you think about your phone, you think about what you're seeing. You're at the gym, you don't think about what you're doing, you think about the music you're listening to and you're enjoying it. When you get bored, instead of drawing something, playing some music, learning a new instrument, making a piece of art, you would sit down and watch Netflix or just text friends or send them Snapchats. So you need to get creative. You need to make it a habit to make some art, play music, do anything creative, anything artistic. Usually art and creativity, they go hand in hand. So try, let's say, twice a week, just take half an hour and do something creative. Even if you don't want to make a piece of art, maybe you don't like art, do some thinking. Thinking and imagination can also expand your creativity. Maybe you have a problem at work that you need to solve tomorrow, and you have half an hour where you're free. Maybe instead of watching Netflix, you want to go to your room, put on some good music that would make you relax and not distract you. Close your eyes, think about the problem, and think about all the possible solutions. And just keep thinking about everything for half an hour or 20 minutes. Put an alarm and don't get distracted by anything. Just close your eyes and think. Get creative, use your imagination, and if you do this, most probably you're going to find a better solution than you would have the next day. The next day when you woke up early and you went to work and work is stressing and you need to figure it out by the end of the day, this pressure will not make you as effective as the previous day where you had nothing to do and instead of watching Netflix, you sat down and you thought about it, you brainstormed really well. One thing that's also included in the course that you can use to become more creative is mind mapping. Mind mapping enhances your creativity and imagination, and of course thinking in an amazing, phenomenal way that I can't even explain it. Nobody ever used mind mapping and didn't notice significant improvement in all of these areas. And lastly, mental cognitive stimulation. Getting as much stimulation on the brain and as much consistency of those stimulations as possible. This stimulation can come from talking about some philosophy with people. It can come from meditating. It can come from going to the gym. It can come from eating something and being conscious about what you're eating. It can be being in the now, living in the now, and being conscious of the now. Playing games, doing art, dancing, even partying. All of these would ensure mental cognitive stimulation. And what's gonna block this mental cognitive stimulation is using your phone, watching Netflix, watching TV. This is where your brain can actually get to a point where it shuts off. No thoughts in your brain, only eyes watching and you perceiving what you're seeing. That's it. And I know I talked a lot about technology, but because one of the main thing that's blocking all the different areas that you need to work on is technology and is smartphones and is social media. That's why it's so important to understand how it works and how you can control it more. Now we're going to move on to meditation. I mentioned meditation and mindfulness a few times, but this is the part where I'm going to talk about it with a little bit more details. We're going to mention it later, but to just link it to another idea. But you're going to get to it when you get to it. And as it's written in the presentation, we repeated and will repeat this concept. Not only can meditation prevent brain cells from dying, so just to stop there, meditation by itself would stop your brain cells from dying because you're actively using them, which typically happens as we age, but it can also boost a person's brain size in several crucial regions. Furthermore, researchers have concluded that meditation can actually make a person more intelligent. Guys, I'm going to talk about personal experience with meditation. I spent 6 months at a certain period in my life where I used to wake up every single day at 4 in the morning. I would go downstairs to a park. There was a park near my house. And I would sit there and meditate for at least half an hour. And in those 6 months, I was in absolutely amazing mental and physical shape. And after I stopped, it disrupted everything. And I couldn't go back to where I was until I went back to the habit of meditation. There is nobody who meditated ever and said that it didn't at least help him concentrate more. If you look up a list of all the big successful people who use meditation on a daily basis, you are going to be shocked. You will find attached to this course also an article that talks about meditation methods. Of course, there's going to be some guided meditations that we did ourselves that you can use that are really helpful, but you can also read the article to get a bit more information. Now, there's a direct correlation between meditation and neuroplasticity. In 2011, Sarah Lazar and her team at Harvard found that mindfulness meditation can actually change the structure of the brain, as we said before. 8 weeks of mindfulness-based stress reduction was found to increase cortical thickness in the hippocampus, which governs learning and memory. And we don't even need to explain what happens when the brain size increases. That, of course, means that there are more brain cells, and with more brain cells, you will have more brain energy, you will ensure more neuroplasticity, and especially because it's affecting your learning and your memory, which are two essential parts when it comes to neuroplasticity. And please, don't make the mistake of taking a decision that you want to meditate every single day for 30 minutes. I promise you, you will get drained and you will not be able to keep the consistency. Just as we talked about the gym, when there's a fat person who's not comfortable there and he takes it step by step, you need to also take it step by step. Maybe start with 2 minutes of meditation every day for a week, then go to 5 minutes, then after a week go to 7.5, 10, until you get to a point where you're satisfied with the time you're meditating, and then you're good to go. You already got there through step-by-step consistency, and then you're good to go. You can keep it as a daily habit and keep the consistency and eventually get all the benefits that comes from meditation. Now, moving on, one of the most important things when it comes to cognitive plasticity is changing habits. Habits eventually become hardwired in your brain, and this is absolutely what we're talking about. This is neuroplasticity itself. So when you change habits, you are changing the structure of your brain, you are changing the neural networks and the link between all the different neurons. You might be creating a new habit and wiring new neurons together, or you might be removing an old habit and breaking the links and breaking the overall neural network. Now, here's the thing about habits. It takes a lot of mental energy, and you probably know that. Whenever you wanted to stop a habit, it didn't happen overnight. Nobody just woke up one day and said, I'm going to start going to the gym, and they went to the gym for the rest of their lives. Maybe very rare cases that I'm not aware of, but most of the times, 99.9% of the times, this is not how it happens. And what's so fascinating about habits, that they can form almost inseparable neural networks. When you picked up the habit of driving in a certain way for the past 30 years, and then somebody tries to show you a new way to drive, you're probably not going to adapt to it at all, because the old habit is inseparable when it comes to the neural network it formed. And as we mentioned before, there is a big section about habits where you're going to learn how to overcome them and deal with them and create new habits, eliminate or replace. You're going to know everything about habits. Now, next, we're going to talk about physical exercise. Even though it's physical, it has direct cognitive plasticity effects. First off, endorphins are only one of many neurotransmitters released when you exercise. Physical activity also stimulates the release of dopamine and serotonin, and these brain chemicals play an important part in regulating your mood. That's why before, when we were talking about how if you force yourself to go to the gym when you're feeling lazy, you're probably going to feel that your mood is better when you come back from the gym. You're going to feel this sense of accomplishment, and just the release of chemicals in your brain will make you feel better overall. Will just give you a better mood. If you're in a bad mood, you will definitely feel a little bit better. And mood brings us back to emotions and feelings. When you experience emotions that are bad, then you're going to be in a bad mood, and it's going to affect how you're feeling, and it's going to affect overall what you're thinking about and what you're going to do. So if after experiencing these emotions, you would just go to the gym and work out, you will feel better. At least you will have a better mood than before. If every single time you get mad, you would go to the gym and just crush a lot of weights, this will not just release chemicals in your brain to make you feel better, but if you keep up the consistency and it becomes wired in your brain, this big change going from being angry to feeling relaxed and feeling more peaceful because you threw it all on the weights and now you're feeling better, it becomes hardwired in your brain that every single time you go to the gym, you feel good. And if you ever skip going to the gym, you feel that there is something missing. And second thing is that physical exercise may trigger processes, facilitating neuroplasticity, and thereby enhances an individual's capacity to respond to new demands with behavioral adaptations. Indeed, a lot of studies showed that combining both the physical and the cognitive elements might result in mutual enhancement. So adding a quick example to our previous example, going to the gym. If when you go to the gym, whenever you're lifting weights, you focus on the weights, and whenever you're taking a break, you have some music in your ears that you're listening to, and you're switching up the music, listening to different music, you're ensuring both physical and cognitive stimulation. And finally, one of the most important exercises when it comes to cognitive plasticity is learning itself. When we talk about learning, we're talking about acquiring new ideas. We're talking about learning from experiences. We're talking about memories that comes from these experiences and everything you've learned, basically. And all of this sum are essential for neuroplasticity. Working on your brain capacity and flexibility, applying the principles of brain power is a must. We're going to talk about these concepts later, especially brain power and some exercises that would give you more brain power. And converge into learning behaviors and use memory and recalling techniques. So it's not just about learning things, it's also about learning behaviors. And by learning these new behaviors, then you might go and move on to new experiences. It all works together. It's all interconnected, and it's all a big chain. Cognitive plasticity is not just learning, it's learning, memories, experiences, it's physical exercises, it's habits, it's meditation, and it's openness to experience, creativity, thinking, imagination, and cognitive and mental stimulation. And removing just one thing can have an effect on several things. If you just keep using your phone and you don't work on your creativity, thinking, and imagination, your learning process is going to become slower. You will find it difficult to adapt to new situations and new experiences. When you feel uncomfortable about doing something, and then you decide to take it step by step, dividing each and every step, knowing how you're going to take it and how all of the steps are going to get you to where you want to get. This is you using your thinking. This is you using your creativity. It's all a big chain. And as much as there's a lot of things to do, of course, you can't do all of these things at once. You need to develop them bit by bit.